Hello and welcome to the Professional Book Nerds podcast brought to you by Libby. My name is Joe and I'm so happy you're here today. Before we dive in, I have to say the podcaster things, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you are joining us from the Libby app YouTube channel, you can see me waving at you. Hello, welcome. Also, like and subscribe here. I'm still new to all the words I have to say on this platform, but thank you. Thank you for being here. And of course, I hope you're ready for some exciting new books. Today is the magical day of the month where me and my guest, who I will introduce in just a moment, will be taking you through the books we are most looking forward to in March of 2025. These are some of my favorite episodes to record, and I hope you all enjoy them as well. Now, as I said, and as you might have seen already, my guest is none other than the amazing Amy from the Book Gang podcast, from the Mom Advice blog, all sorts of wonderful things. And I will let Amy give herself a whole intro and where you can find her and what you can expect from her. I know she has been on the show before, but just because she is one of my favorite people in the space, Amy, welcome. Hello. How are you?
Did you see my face registering? Like, oh my gosh, we're on video. I'm wearing my Not Today Satan shirt. Like,
Perfect.
I just want to set you up for like the kind of person who's guiding you on your book adventures.
I mean, and that's why I am in such good company, because somewhere hidden in this background are several things that say Not Today, Satan.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here. I host the Book Gang podcast, which is a podcast that celebrates debuts, backlist books, and what I call under the radar gems. So we're looking for people with small marketing budgets that are just trying to get started with their careers on our show. And I also run the momadvice.com website, where I have been working on that for 21 years, which is crazy. And just blogging my little heart out over there. And if you are looking for things like book lists, we do like a themed book list each week that also coincides with our podcast, which comes out bi-weekly. And it's so much fun to cultivate that kind of content for readers. And I've felt very lucky to be doing that for this long. And we also run a booming Patreon community. So if you're interested in book clubs and looking for some readers to connect with, my book club is so great. We pick 12 books every year. At the beginning of the year, we announce them and we read them together. And this year we are hosting the authors for the chats, and it gives people an opportunity to get to talk to the author about their process. We have them on for like the first 30 minutes, and then we have that freedom to talk about and critically analyze the work after they log out, which I think readers really enjoy, getting to talk about how they feel about books, but also the ability to connect. So that's what I am up to over in my online space.
Oh my gosh, Amy, it's so cool. You said it the best in the first sentence with celebrating debut, backlist, people getting started. That is what I love the most about your show, is because that is who I tend to read a lot. I gravitate toward like, who is the new voice? I love my established voices, but I want to be where you are so I can help like predict the future. So I can see like, oh, this person is going everywhere. Like this is happening immediately. But also, you and I know it well. Budgets are always tight. Like in my personal life, I'm lucky that I work for Libby, but I would be using it no matter where I worked, because I don't want to pay for my audiobooks. I want to sit and listen and enjoy without having to spend money. And that is also what encouraged me to explore all elements of the list, because, you know, when you're waiting weeks and weeks and weeks for Onyx Storm and, Scythe and Sparrow, you need another book to pick up in the meantime.
Yeah, it's so true. And I really, even though, you would think, oh, these books are under the radar or they're inaccessible, I have not found that very often using the Libby app, that we aren't able to find it or request it and notify our libraries when those books are not available. And I think it's really fun to get to forecast what books may be a sleeper hit too. Like maybe this book in a year, maybe they have already signed up for an adaptation, but it just hasn't caught on
and
with
no
the
one
public.
knows yet.
Yeah, and that's like really, really fun for me. I get really excited, and I feel like I've like helped them in some way, even though like I'm like, I ushered this person into their whole career. They're like Probably not. But at the same time, I love that feeling of being the person that found it.
I was truly going to ask, like, do you have your score list as you're like, oh my gosh, I talked about that? Because I know I do the same thing.
Yes.
There are handfuls where I go like, I was their first interview, or this was fully a debut. And I go, oh, and at the time that I talked to them, no one knew about this book. But at the beginning of the year, Reese picked it for her book club. Huh, imagine that.
Like, absolutely. I mean, I just hosted Erin Crosby Eckstein, who just got picked up by Good Morning America. Her book is called Junie. And I had planned that interview. And then she came on after the big announcement, and I said, I just want to remind you, I booked this before the big announcement, because I'm not doing it because I think that this book was going to be huge. It's an amazing book. And I'm so happy to see all the success with it. But it's fun to have already booked that interview and then realize, I picked someone who did get picked up by a celebrity book club. So that's pretty cool.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Before we jump in, I want to make sure, Amy, please share any and all links with me that you want. They will be in the episode description and in the YouTube description. So listeners, if you want to check out all of Amy's socials and platforms, and if you want to join the Patreon, you'll know right where to go. And you'll be able to join the book club. It's super fun to see, I love 30 minutes. Let's hear from the author. Let's ask them the questions we want to know. And then, okay, bye. All right, let's dish.
Exactly.
So, Amy, this is your first time joining me for a monthly book picks episode. So as we all know, we jump in, we look at the books that are coming out in March. We talk about what we're most excited for. We may not have read them because they're not available to most of us yet, but I know you have a couple on your list that you have read already. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, you go first, and you set the tone for me.
Perfect. I am happy to be a good host and kick things off. My first book is probably no surprise if you're a regular listener to the show. I have a drag queen book on my list. This is by none other than Bob the Drag Queen, winner of Season 8 of RuPaul's Drag Race. I can say winner of Season 8 because we're on 17. This is Harriet Tubman live in concert. It's such a perfect title. What a good title. This will be out March 25th. This is just your kind of fun fictional romp from RuPaul's Drag Race winner, Traitors contestant, and host of HBO's We're Here comes an inventive, wondrous novel about American hero Harriet Tubman that remixes history into a fresh, dynamic novel about love, freedom, salvation, and hip-hop. In an age of miracles where our greatest heroes from history have magically, unexplainably returned to shake us out of our confusion and hate, Harriet Tubman is back, and she has a lot to say. She calls upon Darnell Williams, a once successful hip-hop producer who was topping the charts before being outed on a BET talk show. Darnell has no idea what to expect when he steps into the studio with Harriet, only that they have a short period of time to write a legendary album she can take on the road. Over the course of their time together, they not only create music that will take the country by storm, but confront the horrors of both their pasts and learn to find a way to a better future. Original, evocative, and historic, Harriet Tubman live in concert is a landmark achievement that will burrow deep into our hearts and ears. How fun to have a magical realism tale of if Harriet Tubman just came back and she wanted to set the record straight, clear out, and just let everyone know what happened. And she decides to do that on a hip hop tour.
Of course.
I don't know what exactly. Of course. I don't know what to expect, but I am fully here for it. I love Bob the Drag Queen. I think their presence is amazing online. And he was on Trixie and Katya's podcast not too long ago talking about this book. And he's been on a few shows talking about this book. But I think just the concept as a whole is wild, and I'm here for it. And I love to see someone write just fiction. And we're so used to our celebrities and our influencers either giving us a memoir or giving us a self-help or a how-to or some sort of fun influencer style book treatment, which that's not shade. I own so many of them. They are a guilt. I don't usually use the phrase guilty pleasure, but to me, they are my one guilty pleasure of this is so silly, but I'm here for it. So I need to know what they did. I need to know how this book goes, and I'm here for it. So that is Harriet Tubman live in concert, a novel by Bob the Drag Queen, out March 25th.
Okay, that sounds amazing. And
Right?
also, I feel like drag queens are having a moment in fiction because I just saw
Yes.
a mystery, I think, that's coming out with the
Uh-huh.
drag queen. Just the cover was
Uh,
iconic. So,
murder in the
yes.
dressing room. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
I talked to Holly in December. The book came out in January.
okay.
It's brilliant.
Okay.
I
I love
mean,
this. I love
uh-huh.
this. I love that this is like some fiction that we can enjoy with this theme. Wonderful.
It's what I want. I want drag queens all the time, so give me drag queen fiction now. And I love the fact that this is just people I admire writing books I want to read. It's, here we go.
Yeah. Well, the first two books that I have read, so I can
Ooh.
actually give you some inside scoops on
Yes,
this.
please.
And I'm definitely switching things up. This is very much not a drag queen book. So I just want to clarify that we are going to a farm on this one. This is called Red Dog Farm by Nathaniel Ian Miller. It comes out March 4th from Little Brown and Company. I love Nathaniel Ian Miller. I have said that I would love to play him in Scrabble because he has one of the most interesting vocabularies of any writer that I've read. And I fell in love with his writing when he wrote Memoirs of Stockholm Sven. This is his sophomore novel, and we are going into a contemporary setting. The last one was a historical fiction book. And if you haven't gotten it, I don't know what you're doing with your life. It's so good. This is set on a family farm in the rugged landscape of Iceland. So at the heart of this novel is Ori. He's a young man whose upbringing on a cattle farm instilled in him a deep appreciation for the world and of farming, but he feels pulled, like a lot of young people, to begin his college studies at the university in Reykjavik. And he's going to leave behind his academic Lithuanian Jewish mother and his stoic father, Pappy, who has spent many years toiling on this farm, and it's beginning to weigh heavily upon him. So acclimation from farm life to the college dorm, as you can imagine, it is fraught with a lot of difficulties, including the biggest one being that he can't handle all the loud noises of like city life. It's keeping him up at night, and it starts to create this insomnia that he just is like bleary-eyed at school all the time. And that goes on through much of the story. And he starts to realize that he really misses the farm and he misses his family. So when his dad falls into a deep depression and he's haunted by the past of things that have been happening, like the life and the death cycles of farm life, he starts to make his way back home. And there he finds an unexpected camaraderie with a farmer girl who's on a quest to find a lady in a very limited Icelandic pool for sapphic adventures. He also is engaged in a long-distance romance of his own, and it's where he discovers one of my favorite things about coming-of-age stories. That's where you find out your parents are just people, right? And they have
Yes.
their own difficulties. They have gone through a lot on this farm, and he's starting to realize, oh my gosh, like my parents have had a hard time as well. There's lots of surprising adventures in this book. It has Lithuanian Jewish representation, which I can say that I've never really read about that experience. A Spitfire grandmother who is a gifted physician. It's got a memorable dog if you're a dog person. It's well-researched life of daily farm life. One thing about Nathaniel is that he did an Arctic expedition as part of his MFA program. So he has a kind of a knowing of this land in a way that I think other people might not. And he's also a Vermont farmer. So I feel like the one thing about this story is you are going to be on the farm, and it is mucky. It is disgusting at times. You are going to experience all aspects of farm life. But I think what makes it so authentic is his own background as a farmer. He's not going to gloss it over. You are going to be in all the muck with him. It's atmospheric. It allows you to really marinate in what I believe is one of the best writers that I have gotten to read from modern day. So I hope that people will pick up and be curious about Nathaniel Ian Miller's work because Red Dog Farm is just a delight.
That sounds beautiful. And I love the first thing you said of like, I want to play Scrabble with him.
Yes, I did. I asked him about that. And if I could be not telling this correctly, but I believe that he was the one that had to do, like his mother was like a paralegal and he would do her notes for her even when he was young. And so when he would take down those notes, he was obviously getting a language descriptions.
Just beyond.
And beyond
Yeah.
what normal young children are exposed to. He says he's not very good at Scrabble. I just cannot believe that that would be the case. But anytime I tell him, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to open up his books and really be able to use my dictionary tool, where it's someone you're like,
Yes.
I feel smarter after reading this. You are going to be on a long road with this book. I think he's the kind of, writer where you don't want to rush. It's very unhurried. And you want to sit in that. It's a great one for winter, especially, I think.
Is it also one of those that you could if you really want to take your time with it, you could have your secondary book in the background?
Yes.
Those
this
are
is
some
that
of my
kind of
favorite.
writer.
Okay.
You could put it down and come back and read a chapter at a time. It's not meant to be this very propulsive kind of experience where you're like, I can't put it down. It's like, I want to just savor something for a little bit with a cup of tea. I think he's that kind of writer.
Full journey with our protagonist. I'm a sucker for a coming of age story, and that idea of I can't sleep because it's suddenly too loud. Everything
and
about this.
I do want to say too, both of his books have LGBTQ representation in these very in the historical fiction aspect as well, and it was inspired by someone. So I just feel like I love that about his storytelling, and it doesn't seem like the kind of book that would have that in it, and I think it's important to point that out.
Just seems very natural and effortless. It's not an afterthought. It's just making us a part of everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I love that. Well, I'm with you to take us on the wildest journey. That is the best thing about episodes like this is we get to give everyone whiplash. That's how I end up thinking of it. My next pick is A Wizard of Earthsea, a graphic novel adaptation. Of course, this is Ursula K. Le Guin. This was adapted and illustrated by Fred Fordham. This will be out March 11th from HarperCollins. I am a sucker for this kind of... I know I've said it time and time again, and it does hold true. I am not usually one for the highest of fantasy, so it seems wild for me to say I want Ursula K. Le Guin's timeless and revered A Wizard of Earthsea in any form, let alone reimagined in a richly expansive and graphic novel by acclaimed artist Fred Fordham, creator of stunning adaptations of To Kill a Mockingbird and A Brave New World. But I do, and that takes us right into it. The art style looks absolutely stunning from the cover alone, and knowing Fred's work from To Kill a Mockingbird and Brave New World adaptations, this is where I get to hop on my soapbox for a moment and say, if you are a hesitant reader or the parent of a hesitant reader, or you've got hesitant readers in your life, switch up your format, whether that is audio, whether that is graphic novels or graphic adaptations in this sense. If you are experiencing a reading rut or a slump, switch it up, go different from what you usually do, whether that's a different genre or, again, a different format. I love the beauty of graphic novels. I was an anime and manga kid. I know y'all know that, but there's just something about seeing the way that the world can be adapted. It gives me something. So if you're not familiar with A Wizard of Earthsea, Ged was the greatest sorcerer in Earthsea, but in his youth, he was the reckless Sparrowhawk. In his hunger for power and knowledge, he tampered with long-held secrets and unleashed a terrible shadow upon the world. This is the tumultuous tale of his testing, how he mastered the mighty words of power, tamed an ancient dragon, and crossed death's threshold to restore the balance. Experience the best-selling first adventure of Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea cycle as a masterly crafted graphic novel. Fred Fordham brings new life to Le Guin's iconic fantasy classic with his breathtaking illustrations and thoughtful text adaptation. Because remember, you have to find ways to adapt all of this, not only into image, but into speech bubbles and stage directions, basically. Now available in March. It is beautiful. And if you are like me, maybe a little hesitant in the highest of fantasy kind of spaces, this might be your way in. You go, oh, I liked where this was going. Now I want to see the source material. I want to dive into that first book. And then all of a sudden, you are in the Earthsea cycle.
I love that. I have not embraced graphic novels, I will be honest, but everyone in my family does. So I'm listening to this and I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to get this for my family. And maybe I do need to switch my format up a bit and try that. And I have been really intrigued, especially by, writers that are doing the classics and bringing them back, or things that seem intimidating to me as a reader. I think these are such a great like gateway drug into the classics, right?
Right. Well, the classic adaptations, even when it's like a take on Emma, a take on Wuthering Heights, and it's a contemporary reinterpretation, or that's kind of the general theme. We're seeing that a lot. I think this is just an additional step in that direction. Amy, I think for you, maybe a graphic memoir. They
That's a
are
great idea.
they are such a thing. There are so many of them out there, more than I think I ever thought. We've done episodes on it. But you are the person who made me think, like, change up your format. In one of our first conversations together, you were just talking to, or you had just talked to an ADHD coach, I believe.
Yes.
About like switching and going between like the book version and the audio version. And so I've found ways that I can adapt that in my own life. And so I think of you very often, especially when I say like, hello, pick up a graphic novel, pick up anything different to just shake yourself up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah. I'm queen of like adapting to my busy brain.
Same. I've had to learn many a trick.
Yes. Especially when you're reading at this volume, I'm sure, for the show.
Yes, whether it's for the show, I mean, I love to throw, because we're both audiobook people, I love to throw it on in the background for everything I do. And suddenly you realize, like, oh my God, I just listened to 20 books this month.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did it, but also I have now ignored all of the podcasts I love, or all of the this I love, or all of the that. And so even just trying to find balance against volume.
Yeah. And this is totally a side plot here talking about,
Please.
okay, I have started using my iPad again for reading because you can have it read out loud to you. And I this is my little tip. There is a really great voice that you can install. Alex, he has great breath control. I can't explain what it is, but it's less robotic sounding. And Alex reads so many books to me. And I love that I can set the pace on my iPad to go fast as my brain is going all the time, and highlight at the same time. And I just find that process to be one of the best for someone who has to read a lot for my job. You know, I want to stay on top of books and reading a lot of advanced copies. You want to like get through that first quarter to decide whether or not something will be a good fit for the show. And I find Alex to be a great narrator. So if you are looking for a voice, I highly recommend installing him on your iPad.
I'm going to have to get into that because there are not as many audiobook arcs available as I would like.
Yeah, that is the thing. Yeah, read me a document. Yeah, absolutely.
That's when I hop into like e-reader and I'm like, okay, NetGalley, here we go. And I try to pull out the old like college speed reading days, and I'm just like, but I want to move around the house. And I
just carry my iPad around with me because you just keep it in your one arm while you're like unloading the dishwasher.
And I've got it like perched on a pile of clean dishes. And I'm like, okay, here we go.
Absolutely.
I love that. No, that is helpful. And now I know I need to go and meet Alex.
Yeah, Alex is the best. And honestly, I found his voice on a Reddit thread for people who have disabilities. And I have a disability, so I'm always like searching for ways to enhance my reading experience that's going to work with, like, if I'm having a bad day, my hands don't feel good, like, what can I do, like, where I don't have to hold something? And everyone was talking about Alex being like the top tier voice. So this is like by the disabled community at large, as someone part of the community, highly recommend.
And I will say Reddit is like the best kept secret. If you are, it's not a secret for those of us who know and are not afraid to dive in. But if you are only vaguely aware, change up your internet searches by just like putting Reddit at the end of it and dive into some threads. Like, you will find some, it can be hit or miss when you're like, oh, what about books on this theme? That sometimes it's like, well, I read this one book 10 years ago. And I'm like, okay, well, I need now. But
yeah, absolutely.
But for literally everything else, add Reddit into your search terms.
I agree.
Just plop it on the end. But what's your next book? This is the other one that you've read that you can give us more insight on?
So this is the other one I read. Yes. Okay. It's called All the Other Mothers Hate Me by Sarah Harmon. And it comes out on March 11th from Putnam. And I was curious about this thriller. We are hosting Sarah on the podcast, so I do want to say that. But I was mostly intrigued by her job, her past job, and also this book deal. So in her bio, she describes herself as a recovering journalist living in London. And she has over a decade of experience reporting on major breaking news stories around the globe, most recently as a foreign correspondent for NBC News, reporting for Today, Nightly News, and MSNBC. But this novel was involved in a 9-way auction, and it yielded a, quote, significant deal for the author, which has been rumored to have been a sum that was in the 7 figures. So again, I'm kind of curious about it. Then the novel got picked up for adaptation by the Bear creator, Christopher Storer, who has it lined up as a new television project at FX. And that was announced in 2023. So I'm curious what's happening with that project, especially with the way things go in Hollywood. So just to give a backstory on why, because I'm not a big thriller reader. It takes a lot for me to get pulled into something. But this novel was a ton of fun. And I think it would be a great fit for fans of Finlay Donovan and Big Little Lies, which is obviously it's going to immediately with the title, you're going to be like, is this kind of like it? Yeah, it is. So this is from the publisher. Florence Grimes is a 31-year-old party girl who always takes the easy way out, single, broke, and unfulfilled after the humiliating end to her girl band career. She has only one reason to get out of bed each day, her 10-year-old son, Dylan. But then Alfie Risby, her son's bully and the heir to a vast frozen food empire, mysteriously vanishes during a class trip, and Dylan becomes the prime suspect. Florence, for once, is faced with a task she can't quit. She's got to find Alfie and clear her son's name or risk losing Dylan forever. Now, I would say you will know if this book is for you based on the first line of the book. The missing boy is 10-year-old Alfie Risby, and to be perfectly honest with you, he's a little shit. So that is the tone of the book throughout. If that line, you're like, ooh, I don't like books like that, this will not be your book.
I'm sold, though.
The protagonist is very unlikable, and Florence is really quite insufferable. But I loved her, and I thought her writing was really creative. It felt indulgent. When you talk about maybe a guilty pleasure, it felt indulgent. It was descriptive and interesting. I can't always say that's the case with thrillers. I think sometimes thrillers are very short staccato sentences, not very interesting. I did not find that with her book. And I'm curious about this getting optioned the way that it is. I don't know if it's because of her background as a journalist. I mean, she's tying in some things that as a journalist, I think feel like inside baseball, how they got the story or what the lead is when it becomes headline news, that kind of thing. And also this lead is really obsessed with Mariah Carey, particularly was it the Emancipation? I forget what
the Emancipation of Mariah.
Yes. So her entire thing is I have to get to that level where I've had this suffering, with my girl band experience, but I think of Mariah and she's constantly thinking about Mariah Carey. That in itself is just a very funny bit that runs throughout the entire book. It's a lot of fun. I thought it was really, really fun. I think reviews have been pretty split when I look at it. You do have to like an unlikable protagonist. And that is one of those things, it's not going to hit the right note for every reader. But for me, it was absolutely fun.
I love those warnings because I am a big thriller reader, but I'm with you. I think it's books like this where when they get picked up by everyone that you're this can go across the gamut of readers. But for the most part, I think sometimes thrillers tend to fall the route of a Lifetime movie and just that you know exactly what to expect, but you can have a really good time. I say it a lot, but I forget everything I ever read the moment I close the book. And so I just remember how it made me feel. And usually I'm well, that was a good enough vibe. I'll take that. There might have been things I didn't like about it, but not enough to care to remember. You still get 3 stars in my brain. I would say, oh, you need just a thriller to add next. Here you go. I read this one. I'll throw that out into the ether. But with something like this has, like you said, those very clear make or break. You have to be able to get through just someone you don't like. But that first line sold me.
Yeah.
And I love a running gag. I love a bit. It's such a delicate balance because I can think of a handful of books where the protagonist has that person that they idolize or this is my benchmark. This is my running go back to. And sometimes you're oh my God, give me a break. And then sometimes you're this was what I needed. So yes. I cannot wait to add that to my list.
Yeah, I'm just intrigued by her. Just in general, I think it will be a really interesting interview. And I was looking at her Instagram feed, for example. This is like very gossipy, but like I saw that she had covered the Queen and her death, and she's like at the scene. And so I feel like her like seeing all these little glimmers of like things that she had done with her career and then making that pivot over to thriller writer is really interesting. And I'm curious about how that happens and like what spurs someone to like leave something that, probably you're getting to be adjacent to so much throughout life, and then kind of what that would be like kind of isolating yourself to be a writer.
And to have like a purported 7-figure deal, immediate fights, and also bought for adaptation, like that emphasizes the standing of her career. Like, okay, well, we know everyone wants to hear what you have to say, even if it is fiction. And so to me, I'm just like, isn't the trajectory usually like, okay, I did all this journalism and now they're putting me behind a desk at CNN, MSNBC. Like they're sitting me somewhere now, and now I just report what someone else has researched and reported. But no, this was the like, if I'm not going to be in the field, I can't wait to hear what they have to say to you. So,
and it's satisfying, and the ending is satisfying. However, I think it could be a series. So we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
I'm curious. Yeah.
I mean, sign me up. I am a person who loves thriller. I also love horror, as we have talked about.
Oh, yes.
I also love YA. And so coming out March 11th from Bloomsbury, this is How to Survive a Slasher by Justine Puselo-Winans. I mean, the cover is perfect. Yes. It has that like 80s camp design to it. Everything about this, my regular listeners are rolling their eyes at me right now. Like, of course this is on his list, but like, and then when I read the buzzy line of "You're not supposed to die tonight" meets Scream, everyone who hasn't rolled their eyes at me has fully like they've rolled out of their head. But check, those are two perfect check marks of YA slasher that turns classic horror tropes on their heads. I am horror trash. Sign me up. Like please. This is it. I haven't even gotten to the description. I'm like,
wait, are you a slasher movie watcher or just slasher reader?
I'm more on the reader front. Like, I love horror movies. I don't love gore a ton. So like, if it's that truly like 80s, the dramatic scream and then like cut to silhouette, I'm in. But I don't need to see blood everywhere. So that, I will. But, how about you?
I am like you. I would much prefer like a vintage throwback than I would what is happening now. Like I'm not really into that. I would never probably pick up like a slasher habit at this 3 point in my life. Yeah, no.
Okay. I thought we were on the same page there, but I was like, hey, you never know. I love it for everyone else. It's not for me. As I age, I'm like, I need a lot less gore in my life.
Same.
Books are usually a different story. There are moments where I go, whoa, that was okay, Clay McLeod Chapman, thank you. That was a description, but I am here for it. So few people can say that they faced the infamous Satterville Wolfman and lived, but CJ Smith can. She doesn't talk about that, though. CJ has survived the horror movie that is her life by following one rule: blend in and stay out of it. That's hard to do when your trauma gets turned into a best-selling book series. The Slasherville books are a true crime phenomenon documenting the Wolfman massacres that changed CJ's life forever. I mean, we're trope on trope in. We're scream-coded. I'm here. CJ hates everything about the books and their fans, but at this point, she's just grateful there aren't any more murders to write about. Until one day, an unpublished Slasherville book shows up on her doorstep, predicting new Wolfman killings. CJ is sure it's a bad prank, but then the events in the book start coming true. And when CJ breaks her one rule, the final girl, the person who, according to the book, was supposed to stop the Wolfman, ends up dead. Suddenly, blending in and staying out of it is not an option, and CJ will have to use everything she knows about the rules of horror to make it out alive. Perfect.
Sold.
It's perfect.
That sounds perfect. It does.
That is How to Survive a Slasher by Justine Puselo-Winans, out March 11th.
I can't wait. That sounds wonderful.
That's the like, my brain is going to need a break the exact moment that comes out, and I'm going to love it like 10 times as much as I know I already will, because I'm just like, oh, this came at the right time. I'm ready.
We'll buddy read it. It sounds great.
Perfect.
Well, I am switching gears.
Perfect.
I am going to talk about Dream Count by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Hopefully,
Yes.
I've said her name properly. I apologize. I did look at pronunciation guides and thought, oh, this won't be video, so it doesn't matter. I can do it a few times. That is what it is, friends. This comes out March 4th from Knopf. I fell in love with her writing, I'm sure, as a lot of other readers did with Americana, which wove together themes of like love, belonging, and the complexities of being Black in two different parts of the world. That's what really sold me on that story. So I have been anxiously awaiting another novel from this author, as have everyone else. This is actually sitting on my Kindle right now. This is a publishing event 10 years in the making. That is how long it has been. We have been waiting for a novel from this writer. So in this story, we have Chiamaka. She's a Nigerian travel writer who's living in America. Alone in the midst of the pandemic, she recalls her past lovers and grapples with her choices and regrets. We also have her best friend, who is a lawyer who has been successful at everything until betrayed and brokenhearted. She must turn to the person she thought she needed least. Then we have Chiamaka's bold, outspoken cousin, who's a financial powerhouse in Nigeria, who begins to question how well she knows herself, and Chiamaka's housekeeper, who is proudly raising her daughter in America but faces an unthinkable hardship that threatens all she has worked to achieve. Now, this is from the publisher. It says, is true happiness ever attainable, or is it just a fleeting state? And how honest must we be with ourselves in order to love and to be loved? A trenchant reflection on the choices we make and those made for us, on daughters and mothers, on our interconnected world. Dream Count pulses with emotional urgency and poignant, unflinching observations of the human heart in language that soars with beauty and power. It confirms her status as one of the most exciting and dynamic writers on the literary landscape. So I love her writing. I have wanted to get into this, but I also know that all of her books are quite large. Like, this is going to be close to, I think, 500 pages. So if you are settling in, it's going to be a saga. It's going to be sprawling. You will be in for a wonderful ride, I am sure. But this one has had good reviews. I will say it's not, coming in as strong as Americana necessarily, but it's been a long time since we've read her writing, and I'm just so excited to get my hands on the story and have an opinion on what I think about this book too.
Her writing is so much, like, just,
Yeah.
And when you said 10 years, I was like, oh my gosh, it's been 10 years?
Yeah.
It's hard to believe, but also, I guess it makes sense. And dense for sure. A long road ahead of us for that one.
I would be curious, because I read Americana when it came out, to
Mhm.
revisit that one, just because
too.
it's about blogging. And I did that for like my whole career. And at the time, it was very like timely and intertwined with what I did. I just wonder what I would think about it now, or what maybe a reader would think about how we were doing that back then and what it looks like. Of course, now we have Substack and things like that. People are still using those kinds of mediums, but I just wonder what I would think about it.
But in a very different way than we were then.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm thinking about it now, like, oh my gosh, I did read it 10
it would
years
be like
ago.
a time capsule of sorts.
Maybe that's my next challenge. It's like I have to pick Americana back up and be like, how does this read to me today? Because
Yeah.
and you have been blogging for like, when people ask me about you, I'm like, she's a pioneer. She is one of
I'm the dinosaur artifact. They're like, hello. I mean,
you were one of the first. Like,
Wild West. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
How was that? And now is when I turn it into an interview. Like,
no.
What was your experience like for all of those years? But how have you, like, with your mention of Substack, seeing the world change and how you've changed with it?
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously it was such a different time because people were so invested in what you wrote in a way that we don't seem to have time for people anymore. I mean, if you think about how we read now, you're just scrolling as quickly as you can. And you're like, at the end, maybe you might be like, good job, or but at that
let
point
me leave the
time,
stars and comments.
People were so invested in the community, and actually read your words. And I think it's
Yes.
very interesting to see how people interact with content now. I still have like a core group of people that have read for like 21 years that are still like, now they're in the book club. It means something to you when someone is willing to like go on the long journey experience in that way.
Definitely.
And you just had to adapt. But the things that I could write, I mean, I truly feel like I have a book in me about being a mom influencer, but it would be
You
probably
have
a
to.
pretty laughable, satirical kind of journey to experience. But the things that we did back then is just wild. Like it was wild.
I mean, I think of even some of my early days with the bookmobile. We'd invite all sorts of like press and folks out, and the people who would come to see us first and foremost were the mommy bloggers. Like that would be who would be there. And I have had so many just wonderful conversations in like 5-minute bursts here and there while helping people get started on OverDrive and Libby that were just like, oh yeah, of course, this is what our tour is, and these are what we're giving away, and come on back anytime. So it's such an interesting landscape. And I think the other thing I can think of is at that time, we all had one way that we experienced influencers of some form or another. While like now there is such a clear pipeline of Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and they like all feed each other one way or another. And then those people develop Substacks, and then and then there's like this and this and this. But back then, like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you had one way that you were following people. I mean, for you, it was the early days of a lot of the spaces, but like, I think of like 2006 YouTube, there were people at that point even that we were like, well, I want to see what that person does funny next. And, so just the way that the pipeline has changed even.
Yeah. And I will say too, like going the long haul
Mm-hmm.
aspect of it, they were the truth tellers of what motherhood
Yes.
really looked like. And now we're the truth tellers of menopause, of
Yeah.
things that perimenopause, the things that people still are not talking about, women's issues or like that are hidden behind, so it's interesting to see both like what has happened with these influencers, whether they
True.
stayed in their marriages, where their kids are happy, like at the stage they're at, or where they evolved into, and what health crisis they might be dealing with, or like the realities of dealing with parents that are aging, and like so that journey continues, and they're still the truth tellers of that space. It's really a magnificent thing what that opened up for women to be able to talk about things that were hidden
Truth
issues.
tellers. Yeah, truth tellers is such an important word, and right. I mean, we're starting to see it now even in publishing, like the books and the resources that are becoming available for children to understand what they're experiencing. But for many of us, it was there is this one person online that I trust to tell me this is what's happening, and they're telling me like it is. Because I mean, you and I were joking before recording of the Nara Smith of it all, the kind of like, I have everything set to perfectly craft this illusion for you, where that was not the original journey, and it still isn't for those OG folks who are like, hey, I'm going through this right now, and let me just tell you what it's like.
It's true.
I love an aside. Sorry, listeners. I hope you can enjoy some like, we've got amazing resources in front of us here today. I'm taking advantage of that.
You should. You absolutely should.
Well, I'm going to keep us swinging in wild directions of books. My next pick is The Bane Witch by Ava Morgan. This is from St. Martin's and will be out March 18th. It is that kind of like fantasy fiction, kind of like cozy fantasy romance thriller vibe. Practical magic meets Gone Girl. Need I say more? It's a dark, spellbinding novel about a woman who is more than a witch. She is a hunter. Piers Corbin has always had an affinity for poisonous things, plants and men. From the pokeweed berry she consumed at age 5 that led to the accidental death of a stranger, to the husband whose dark proclivities have become concerning. Poison has been at the heart of her story. But when she fakes her own death in an attempt to escape her volatile marriage and goes to stay with her estranged great aunt in the mountains, she realizes her predilection is more than a hunger, it's a birthright. Piers comes from a long line of poison eaters, bane witches, women who ingest deadly plants and use their magic to rid the world of evil men. I have to pause here and be like, What a concept. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh. Piers sets out to earn her place in her family's gritty but distinguished legacy, all while working at her Aunt Myrtle's cafe and perpetuating a flirtation with the local, well-meaning sheriff to allay his suspicions on the body count she's been leaving in her wake. But soon she catches the attention of someone else, a serial killer operating in the area, and that only means one thing: it's time to feed. In Ava Morgan's dark, thrilling novel, The Bane Witch, a very little poison can do a world of good.
As soon as you say serial killer, I'm immediately intrigued. Like,
yeah.
I love a fictional serial killer, and this premise sounds great. Also bringing down evil men. Okay.
I mean, you had me. I mean, the description truly could have just said kills evil men, and I went, well, done.
Okay. Yeah.
It could have said, like Practical Magic, kills evil men, and it was already on my TBR. But that is The Bane Witch, Ava Morgan, March 18th, so I don't forget to say it again.
And this is for adults, not the young adult reader.
Yes,
just clarifying because she works at our aunt's. Okay.
Yes. I think I only had 2 YA on my list. Yes, I'm looking now. I'm like quick scrolling through. Okay, yeah, but my YA is over. This is general audience content. Yeah. How good does that sound, though?
That sounds really good. I'm excited about that.
It's truly just like, oh, we took Practical Magic, but made it dark without having to make the witches evil. Like, the point is we are fighting evil, and we're doing that in a deadly way. And I think this will be good for a lot of folks who love that, like, anti-hero kind of energy. The, like, let's make the villain the hero, but clearly she's not a villain. This is all done for the greater good. Oof, I'm here for it.
That sounds amazing. Well, I am definitely switching gears a little bit. And this is actually not a book that's typically in my wheelhouse, but I have been watching so many like videos of booksellers talking this book up, talking about this book a lot and saying how good it is. So I am coming to you with that kind of blessing. But it is called The Jackal's Mistress, and it's by Chris Bojalian, and it comes out March 11th from Doubleday. Have you ever interviewed Chris Bojalian? He's got such a prolific career.
Don't think I have.
Okay, I think this is his 26th book, if I'm not mistaken.
No, then I definitely haven't.
He was like one of the original Oprah's book club picks. Like way back in the day when it first came out. So I just want to say about him is that this man is so engaging with his readers. When people post like comments or talk to him, he talks back, and he like really spends a lot of time with that. So like if you are someone who enjoys his work, I think it's important to point out, like whenever I see an author that's doing that, I like to say like, definitely reach out to him. If you read a book of his and you like, I believe that this man would respond to you. Yeah.
I mean, that is aside from the fact that I have no ideas or the will to write a book, that's the thing that stops me the most, is that like, if I put a book out there, I'd be trolling through Goodreads.
Yes.
I'd be replying to every DM.
Absolutely.
Like,
and he
it's
does.
Too dangerous.
He absolutely does. And I will say too, I looked up on Goodreads, and at this time, the Goodreads rating is 4.51 on this. And it has 117 people that have reviewed it. So even though like it hasn't even officially come out, it's off to a great start. And I have it on my Kindle, so I'm really excited. So this is set in Virginia in 1864. Libby Stedman's husband has been away for so long that she can barely conjure his voice in her dreams. While she longs for him in the night, fearing him dead in a Union prison camp, her days are spent running a gristmill with her teenage niece, a hired hand, and his wife, all the grain they can produce, requisitioned by the Confederate Army. It's an uneasy life in the Shenandoah Valley, the territory frequently changing hands, control swinging back and forth like a pendulum between North and South, and Libby awakens every morning expecting to see her land in a battlefield. And then she finds a gravely injured Union officer left for dead in a neighbor's house, the bones of his hand and leg shattered. Captain Jonathan Weybridge of the Vermont Brigade is her enemy, but he's also a human being, and Libby must make a terrible decision. Does she leave him to die alone, or does she risk treason and try to nurse him back to health? And if she succeeds, does she try to secretly bring him across Union lines where she might negotiate a trade for news of her own husband? A vivid and sweeping story of two people navigating the boundaries of love and brutal violence. The Jackal's Mistress is a heart-stopping new novel based on a largely unknown piece of American history. So I love this concept of thinking about, okay, like, if I have a bond with someone, if I save them, not only am I like doing something that, considered distrustful, but also like, could I trade him for
Can I get something out?
information to
Yeah.
get the information I need about the person that I'm with, which
Yeah.
is a very great, morally complex thing for a
Yes.
book club to talk about. And the fact that this is coming in so highly rated by booksellers, this is definitely on my radar for potentially picking for my book club. So I always am thinking about like, what would be discussable from a plot like this, and what can we learn or garner? And that really
Right.
puts the reader in a very difficult kind of moral position about how would I negotiate something like that, or would I be able to do that,
Right.
especially
Yeah.
if I have a bond with someone.
I immediately go to the like, you're drawn to help this person because in your value and moral system, you believe it is right to help someone who is injured. But then you have to question what actual morality you were working off of because you want to use this person for your own gain, is where I went first. And then the second part was like, for this to come in at like 4.5
Yeah.
pre-release and have to try to build sympathy to a person on the side of the Confederacy, especially now, is
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. And I have always appreciated, while I don't
Mhm.
think that Chris's books are always for me, because some of his
Right.
books, they haven't been a good fit for me as a reader.
Sure.
I appreciate the research that goes into them and his passion
Mhm.
for storytelling. And I appreciate that he's taking on this era, which I don't know if I've read a lot of stories from that.
No.
So like I'm always in the World War II world, when it comes to historical fiction. And it's nice
Yeah,
to like pull you into a different timeline as well.
definitely. I am with you that when I go historical fiction, I am either in the Victorian era or like World War II. I'm
Yeah.
never like here.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
think they're usually written for me, but
Yeah. And, or me, like, I
yeah,
don't know.
I don't
Like
think they're
I
written
haven't,
for either.
yeah, we're not the demographic, I don't think.
No,
But I am
but I
excited about
appreciate.
this.
I
And every time I
definitely.
keep seeing these enthusiastic reviews, I'm like, okay, I'm going to come back to his books. Yeah,
No,
for sure.
yeah, all the things that immediately give me pause or make me question, I go like, well, if everyone is, I need to know what this is about
Yeah.
because there's something here.
Raving. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I will swing us in another direction. I don't think this book needs my vote of confidence because of the author name that I'm about to say, but I will be reading this. This is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green.
Yes.
Like, there's no, John Green does not need my vote of confidence, but I love John Green. I think he's incredible, and I am very excited to see what he does with this. This is the history and persistence of our deadliest infection. If you think about it, we're still worried about tuberculosis. John Green, the #1 bestselling author of Anthropocene Reviewed and a passionate advocate for global healthcare reform, tells a deeply human story illuminating the fight against the world's deadliest infectious disease. Tuberculosis has been entwined with humanity for a millennia. Once romanticized as a malady of poets, today tuberculosis is seen as a disease of poverty that walks the trails of injustice and inequity we blazed for it. In 2019, John Green met Henry Ryder, a young tuberculosis patient at Laka Government Hospital in Sierra Leone. John became fast friends with Henry, a boy with spindly legs and a big goofy smile. In the years since that first visit to Laka, Green has become a vocal advocate for increased access to treatment and a wider awareness for healthcare inequities that allow this curable, preventable infectious disease to also be the deadliest, killing over 1 million people every year. In Everything is Tuberculosis, John tells Henry's story woven through with scientific and social histories of how tuberculosis has shaped our world and how our choices will shape the future of tuberculosis. So again, Everything is Tuberculosis, John Green, March 18th. It's one of the hot pub days this month. This is coming from Penguin Young Readers Group, so this may technically be my last YA in the mix, but I think that's just because it's from John Green. I think this will be fitting for YA through adult, but I I'm stuck on the line of Malady of Poets
Mm.
because that's where my brain goes to. Like it's the end of, I think that's how The Danish Girl ends, is like in a tuberculosis hospital. Like It's all of those scenes of like the dramatic cough and then, oh no, there's blood in
Yeah.
the hanky. Like all of those things, but like it's still impacting and killing people today. And it is so treatable. It is something we can so easily deal with. When I was in high school, we had a tuberculosis scare and we all had to go get the like bubble under our arms to check. Like, and I knew nothing. And like, but truly, like weeks before, we're talking about Poe and how we should be, afraid because that's how everyone died back then. And it wasn't a concern, wasn't a worry because, like it was just the test was just to determine if we needed to be home for a few days while we were treated or not. And so to like compare how it's romanticized versus the like grim reality that so many parts of the world live in today, I would love to know more. That's
Yeah.
all.
As a Hoosier,
Yes.
we are just so proud of our John Green. Like,
absolutely.
We have so few things to be proud of at times in Indiana, but that is someone that I could be like, from Indiana. Like, yeah,
exactly.
I love him. And I love the activism that he has done,
Yes.
especially, on TikTok. I feel like he just really uses his platform in a way that, it's engaging. It's also, what he does best, which is kind of illuminating us on topics like these. And
Yes.
I'm excited to check this out as well. And, speaking to like weirdly, like tuberculosis, it does feel like a period piece. I've been watching The Crown and I remember like these very like jarring scenes of like what was happening back then. But like, in college, I got scarlet fever, which is also something like I was like, this is from Velveteen Rabbit. Like, this is what that kid, I'm like, I'm going to die. These are like these diseases and things that are happening or like illnesses that you're like, these are period pieces, but we actually still have cases of these things happening. And it is preventable, like these are things that, can be treated and we can be cared for and we aren't going to necessarily have these kinds of afflictions running the way that they were back then. Just wild.
Right. Scarlet fever in college. Or like my friends who have kids will be like, well, we got the warning text from childcare today that we have to be on the lookout for signs of scarlet fever. And scarlet fever, whooping cough. And you're just like,
yeah.
Right. Okay. We're fine if it happens. But why is it what?
Yeah, exactly.
The Velveteen Rabbit, such a good point.
Yeah.
Oh, trauma. There's a source of trauma from my childhood.
Well, I can't wait to read it. I will read anything he writes. I'm excited.
Same. I am not a Hoosier and I will always support John Green.
John Green.
He's just the neighbor to the east.
We're just so proud. We're so proud in Indiana.
So proud. Oh.
Okay, well, the next book that I have is switching gears. This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead, and it comes out March 25th from Source Books. We hosted Ashley Winstead on the podcast when she had launched her debut romance. I'm sure you've probably had her as well. I like to point out one of her literary heroes is Danielle Steele. And that is because of her ability to crank out stories so quickly. And, she does such a great job with her career. And I think that what I see from Ashley, the quick pace that she has with her writing, it's almost like she's on fire with writing. And you can see that in her career as well. And I want to say that I think that this thriller is a bit risky. And it is based upon the case that is not settled yet of the University of Idaho students that is still ongoing. So this is something that she is taking on as a storyteller. And I will say that some people were bothered by that and were not happy that that was happening. So I do want to set up that aspect of the story that, if it's too soon or you don't feel like this is appropriate, I just want to say that up at the top of the story. But a lot of people have really appreciated what she is bringing to it. So instead of grabbing the book blurb with this one, I'm going to grab what Ashley said that was the goal of the story itself. So 1 year ago, 24-year-old Jane Sharp found herself in the most unlikely place for a college dropout from Florida, at the center of the most high-profile serial killer case in modern history, smack dab in Idaho, hunting suspects with best friends she met only days ago. Bury Me is Jane's tell-all memoir, written 1 year after the fact, chock full of footnotes, chat transcripts, and call-outs to her enemies. she's decided to let the truth about what happened in Idaho finally see the light, and the world will have to buckle in because everything they know about the famous case is wrong. This book is full of murder mysteries, yes, plural, but at its heart is the mystery of grief. In particular, the way that losing someone you love can turn you into a hungry detective, desperate to feel like you knew them in their entirety after they've been ripped from you. It's a book about the lengths we'll go to achieve impossible things. Jane's story begins when her father dies and she discovers the world of online sleuthing, ordinary people who hunt down answers to staggering questions. And no case is more staggering than the Idaho massacres. Jane becomes obsessed, spending every minute hunting the ghosts of killers and the ghost of her father across the universe. Her hunt takes her through Reddit forums, onto Star Trek Voyager, into sorority houses and funeral homes, spiraling into Buffy fan fiction and into the crosshairs of killers. So part of this was inspired by Ashley's loss of her father. She was grieving the loss of her dad as well, and how you look for some kind of purpose in the midst of grief. And she was really taken aback and fascinated by how all these online sleuths were involved with this particular case. So I am intrigued by this story. It is big. For a thriller, I think it's like 480 pages. So it's not a short read, but you also are navigating a lot, it sounds like, of a mixed media experience, which can also add to the page count volume that you're going to experience. And I'm very curious about this. And I can also understand why people need to maybe have more space than this. And I think it's an interesting concept for a story.
Our friends at Sourcebooks, I love seeing everything that Ashley comes out with. I feel like I've always, when I get a fun box of books, there's always an Ashley Winstead book, and I'm like, yay, okay, great. I love to see that kind of Danielle Steele energy that she encapsulates, but I also appreciate her description of this book because, first I'll also say I love a fat thriller, especially if it's because there's multimedia, because I'm a sucker for any sort of interlude. Have to say that before I forget it. But I love her description because while yes, there is plenty of critique and criticism around maybe the timing or the too soon of this, I think we can all think on that and how we resonate with it. But I think there's also like there's something about an investigation piece here, that this is the story of people involved and people around it, even more than anything else. And there's a part of me that's like, well, at least she was upfront and open and clear about what she was doing. I think sometimes people will write like a fictionalized version of a case that has either things people don't want to hear about or was too soon, and they bury it under a story where it's like, well, this was a reimagining, and I'm not telling you that, and I should actually be criticized for it. Where she was like, hey, here we go.
I mean, you do have to think about, like, you know, maybe my life is too full, but I just can't imagine becoming so enraptured with something that I would want to be like the detective or an investigator on something that did not necessarily like affect my personal life. Yeah. And there has to be a driver for that. And I think that's an interesting like way to explore a story, is to say like, what drives someone to go into those places where they become absolutely obsessed with solving something when they don't have a background in those kinds of
criminology, anything like that.
I don't have anything, but I am like determined. And we have seen how the enthusiasm from those kinds of like people who are obsessed has led to real life,
actually leads to resolution, right?
And that it does spur at times people to reopen and re-explore, you know, go back to exploring a case. So I like that in the aspect of what the motive of this story was, and also the motive of Winstead, who was grappling with her own grief and trying to make sense of it. So I think it's an interesting idea.
I think that says exactly what I was trying to say so much better. Like that's exactly it. Like, I think it's fascinating because I'm with you. I'm like, I'm sure if I was touched or impacted in that way, that I too would probably be the character in any show where it's like, yeah, they've got the yarn board and they're obsessed because it happened in their life. But otherwise, I don't know if I'm an internet sleuth.
Yeah.
Unless it's like,
And
did
true
that celebrity
crime,
couple break
just
up or
in
not?
general, true crime is kind of like, there's always that feeling of like, is it okay to engage with this?
And
And I think it's
it
an
always
interesting.
comes back to how the person handles it. Like, was
Yes.
it respect or was it for clicks? Or downloads or reads or whatever. Like, I think it always comes back to that.
Agreed. Wholeheartedly.
Well, I'll pivot us again. This is a little something different for us. This is The Unworthy by Augustina Baz Teresa. She's the author of Tender is the Flesh. This will be out March 4th. We don't have to wait too long for it. The long-awaited novel from the author of the global sensation Tender is the Flesh, a thrilling work of literary horror. Shocker, I'm in my wheelhouse.
I have this on my Kindle.
You're like, whatever.
Yes.
I know. About a woman cloistered in a secretive, violent religious order while outside the world has fallen into chaos. From her cell in a mysterious convent, a woman writes the story of her life in whatever she can find, discarded ink, dirt, and even her own blood. A lower member of the sacred sisterhood deemed an unworthy, she dreams of ascending to the ranks of the enlightened at the center of the convent and of pleasing the foreboding superior sister. Outside, the world is plagued by a catastrophe. Cities are submerged underwater. Electricity and internet are non-existent. And bands of survivors fight and forage in a cruel, barren landscape. Inside, the narrator is controlled, punished, but safe. But when a stranger makes her way past the convent walls, joining the ranks of the unworthy, she forces the narrator to consider her long-buried past, and what she may be overlooking about the enlightened. As the two women grow closer, the narrator is increasingly haunted by questions about her own past, the environmental future, and her present life inside the convent. How did she get to the sacred sisterhood? Why can't she remember her life before? And what really happens when a woman is chosen as one of the enlightened? A searing dystopian tale about climate crisis, ideological extremism, and the tidal pull of our most violent exploitative instincts. This is another unforgettable novel from the master of feminist horror.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
First of all, I mean, the religious themes are always like going to like, that's like, okay, yes, that is one of those things that I like to explore in my literature. But also, you're talking about, is it climate activism?
Climate change, yeah. Like the look of climate activism within the realm of like climate change in the story.
And I think too, like going back to Tender is the Flesh was such an eye-opening read that made me want to be a vegetarian after I read it. Like really, I did not think like a book like that would change how I was perceiving maybe my own eating habits in a way that I had not thought about. So like, I just think that the way that she like blankets her stories and things that are actionable in some way or make you think about how you should take action in some way is pretty brilliant.
That is what I love the most about works like this is those layers. I love walking away from fiction going, oh, but I have real world implications to think about and learn from now. So The Unworthy, Augustina Baz Teresa, pronunciation, trying my best, March 4th.
Can't wait.
Gorgeous cover. I love a stunning, simple, just makes you go, I mean, truly, I'm scrolling. I saw the cover before I even saw anything else to be like, oh, Tender is the Flesh? Okay, of course I'll put this on my list. But like, oh.
Absolutely.
So good.
Well, I will definitely be switching gears. I'm going to talk about Jane and Dan at the End of the World by Colleen Oakley. This comes out on March 11th from Berkeley. I love Colleen Oakley. Like, I love her stories. They are so good. But I will say midlife books are my kryptonite. I am 47 years old. If you say it's a midlife story, I am in. Any type of midlife meandering, I'm going to go there. Like, I absolutely love it. But I will say, too, Colleen's last book, The Mostly True Story of Tanner and Louise, I loved that book so much. It's a little bit based upon her feisty grandmother, and it's an intergenerational road trip story. So that is kind of how I got hooked into her storytelling. And I think it's just a great book to pick up for any readers, like one of those universal books that anybody could get something out of. So saying that, I am very excited about this new book. And this is the book description, which I think will hook just about everybody. Jane and Dan have been married for 19 years, but Jane isn't sure they're going to make it to 20. The mother of two feels unneeded by her teenagers, and her writing career has screeched to an unsuccessful halt. Her one published novel sold under 500 copies. Worse, she's pretty sure Dan is cheating on her. When the couple goes to a renowned upscale restaurant to celebrate their anniversary, Jane thinks it's a good place as any to tell Dan she wants a divorce. But before they even get to the second course, an underground climate activist group bursts into the dining room. Jane is shocked, and not just because she's in a hostage situation, the likes of which she's only seen in the movies. Nearly everything the disorganized and bumbling activists say and do is right out of the pages of her failed book. Even Dan, who Jane wasn't sure ever read the book, admits it's eerily familiar, which means Dan and Jane are the only ones who know what's going to happen next, and they're the only ones who can stop it. This wasn't what Jane was thinking of when she said "till death do us part" all those years ago, but if they can survive this, maybe they can survive anything, even marriage. I'm sorry. That's brilliant. I'm in. This sounds like a movie. This sounds like a film. I'm excited.
This is one of those books that you're like, I want to read this, and I immediately want to see it adapted, because this is the film for sure.
Yes. And I will say that some of the people have read it, have found it to be a little silly and far-fetched. But I think if you read the news headlines right now, is it so silly? Is it so far-fetched? Is it?
I
don't know. I don't know. We live in the upside down. It's quite possible that this could actually happen. And I love that it's like, oh, she's only sold 500 books. And also that she doesn't know if her family member, kind of like my family. Have they ever heard my podcast? No. Am I resentful about that? Absolutely not. I am not. I'm not resentful at all. But, when you do something and no one knows about it, imagine like somebody like starts making a reference to it. And like, this is literally a life or death situation. And it's coming straight from a book that she's unclear anyone has ever read. I think this is great. I love this concept.
I mean, I was hooked on her last book once you said intergenerational road trip story. And I was like,
have you not read that?
I haven't, but I'm going to now.
It's so good.
You're catching me in between books.
Thelma and Louise.
That's perfect.
But feisty grandmother who needs like someone to go with her. And it's the lady that she hires is like in her 20s. And they seem to have nothing in common. But it turns out, of course, that they do. And maybe she was involved in a past heist. Maybe she's more interesting than you think. Yeah.
I love that. Great. I'm down for that. And then to follow it up with this one,
Yeah. Yeah. And Colleen is going on
mad
tour.
At silly?
I know.
Who's mad at too silly? I need silly.
Yeah.
I read these serious, thought-provoking books, but that's not all I read. I love a goofy book. One of the favorite things I've read so far this year was The Accidental Medium, which is just a silly book.
Yeah. I know. And I will say too, if in your the LA area, which I clearly am not, at Midwest,
Same.
But she is at, I think it's Book Soup, is doing a conversation with Taylor Jenkins Reid and Colleen talking about this book. So
perfect.
I would have loved to be there for that, which is happening in March. So if you are in that area, I would definitely look and see if you can get a ticket, because you could also get to hear her in conversation with Taylor Jenkins Reid.
What a killer combo.
Yeah.
Speaking of accidental segues, here's a killer combo. My next book is another horror because I am who I am. But bum. And this is another one of those that do I need to shout him out in my list? No, but I'm going to, because I know I'm going to read this. This is a book from Stephen Graham Jones.
Okay.
Not only is this horror, though, this is historical fiction. He's taking a new twist on it. This is The Buffalo Hunter, Stephen Graham Jones, out March 18th. A diary written in 1912 by a Lutheran pastor is discovered within a wall. What it unveils is a slow massacre, a chain of events that go back to 217 Blackfeet, dead in the snow. Oh my God. 207 Blackfeet dead in the snow. I'm so sorry, y'all. Told in transcribed interviews by a Blackfeet named Goodstab, who shares the narrative of his peculiar life over a series of confessional visits. This is an American Indian revenge story written by one of the new masters of horror, Stephen Graham Jones.
Ooh, that sounds really good.
So it is a chilling historical horror novel tracing the life of a vampire who haunts the fields of the Blackfeet Reservation looking for justice. I
I'm
know.
in. That
I
sounds
know.
really good.
I love when we get like a nothing description because you're like,
good.
You've given me enough keywords to go like, oh, I have to read this. But we've got vampires. We have American Indian revenge story, which I am all about. Like, oh, so my dabbling with historical fiction is usually when it's a little more on the like fantasy or magical realism side, or in this case, just kind of that like, let's go this route for it. So I'm very curious to see how Jones does historical fiction. I mean, his stories are usually like time period ish. You know, like I Was a Teenage Slasher was very 90s, like very 90s feeling. But this to be in 1912 and.
What's your favorite book by him?
You know, I honestly think I Was a Teenage Slasher very quickly just replaced all of the others because it was so unique. It was so different for the genre of a slasher, of like, what if becoming a slasher was a disease almost, that like he had there. Yeah. It's, if you have not picked it up, it is so good. It is so different from all of his other writing, but it's very much just that like, I was at a party, I was in the wrong place in the wrong time, and a slasher came and I was not one of his targets, so he wasn't even interested in me, but somehow I was infected. I don't want to give any of that away, which is why I'm being vague, but
okay.
It's
all right.
So this to be another like what feels like 180 for him is where I'm like, well, I was immediately enamored by the last 180 he threw me, so I'm going for this one.
Well, that sounds really good. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm trying not to be distracting since I'm on video, or I'd be like looking it up on Libby. Okay.
You can look it up.
Yeah,
You're okay.
I'm excited. Okay, this book is the one that I'm most excited about of all the books that I've talked about today. It's called Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall, and it will be coming out March 4th from Simon & Schuster. So this book, I will say, has only like 700 odd ratings so far, but 4.5. So really, really well loved. And a lot of people have been talking about this that I admire as readers and saying it's so, so good. So here's the concept. When her brother-in-law shoots a dog going after their sheep, Beth doesn't realize that the gunshot will alter the course of their lives. For the dog belonged to none other than Gabriel Wolfe, the man Beth loved as a teenager, the man who broke her heart all those years ago. Gabriel has returned to the village with his young son Leo, a boy who reminds Beth very much of her own son Bobby, who died a few years earlier. As Beth is pulled back into Gabriel and Leo's lives, tensions around the village rise, and jealousy rears its ugly head. Beth and her gentle and kind husband, Frank, are happily married, but they have their fair share of secrets, and their relationship relies on the past staying buried. And when the truth begins to come out, events spiral out of control, this time with deadly consequences. Beth is forced to make a choice between the woman she once was and the woman she has become. A sweeping, sexy love story with the pace and twists of a thriller, Broken Country is a novel of simmering passion, impossible choices, and explosive consequences that toggles between the past and present to explore the far-reaching legacy of first love. This is Claire Leslie Hall's U.S. debut. And when you look at reviews, there's just like tons of crying face emojis with this book. And I am in need of a very proper cry to process a lot of emotions I've been going through lately.
Totally.
So I have this at the top of my stack and everyone is just raving about it. So I would not be surprised. I know we're not supposed to make a lot of predictions on here, but I predict that this is going to get picked up by a celebrity book club. I would be shocked if it doesn't.
Absolutely. I mean, that has Celebrity Book Club written all over it.
This is a Jenna's pick feeling.
Without a doubt. This is a Jenna for sure.
Yeah.
But that sounds so beautiful. That has the like lit fic all over it, that you're just like, I need a good cry. This will deliver it. Like,
This is what I'm reading this weekend. I need this. I need it. It sounds cathartic. It sounds like necessary.
You need a good cry now. Got
it. Exactly. I need it right now. I'm going to start crying right now. Like talking about
it. Once we wrap, I'm gonna
yes,
sob.
I will. I have the mood for that. I'm ready. I will be there in my recliner.
Hey, I feel it. Oof. Well, that sounds fantastic. I don't think my next pick will be quite as similar, but it is one I am definitely looking forward to. With a tagline like "Living forever can be mighty lonesome," we might have some matching sad vibes. This is The Keeper of Lonely Spirits by E.M. Anderson. In this mesmerizing, wonderfully moving, queer cozy fantasy, an immortal ghost hunter must confront his tragic past in order to embrace his found family. Sold,
Okay,
right?
queer cozy fantasy. Done.
I knew I'd have you immediately. But again, another surprise for a Joe list.
No, I like it. It's comforting to me.
Right. Find an angry spirit, send it on its way before it causes trouble, leave before anyone else learns his name. After over 200 years, Peter Shaughnessy is ready to die and end this cycle. But thanks to a youthful encounter with one o' them folk in his native Ireland, he can't. Instead, he's cursed to wander eternally far from home with the ability to see ghosts and talk to plants. Immortality means Peter has lost everyone he's ever loved, and so he centers his life on the dead until his wandering brings him to, and here's what really sold me on picking this, Harrington, Ohio.
Yes.
I love an Ohio story. Bring it here for me. As he searches for a vengeful spirit, Peter's drawn to the townsfolk's lives, homes, and troubles. For the first time in over a century, he wants something other than death. But the people of Harrington will die someday, and he won't. As Harrington buckles under the weight of the supernatural, the ghost hunt pits Peter's well-being against that of his new friends and the man he's falling for. If he stays, he risks heartbreak. If he leaves, he risks their lives. We've got an immortal ghost hunter who has not only fallen in love with a person, but also with a town, and he feels alive for the first time in a century. I guess this is my good cry book too. I'm going to guess this will be my good cry book, but that is The Keeper of Lonely Spirits by E.M. Anderson, out March 25th.
Well, my cozy fantasy book list needs an update. It needs a little spruce up. So I'm going to have to add this to my little stack virtually as well. I'm excited. This sounds great. And I'm always here for Midwest adventures for sure.
I want Midwest adventures. I want cozy queer. I don't care what the genre before that is, as long as cozy queer is in there. I'm like, okay, works for me.
That keyword. I love it. Okay, well, I have a different kind of story. It's called I Leave It Up to You by Jinwoo Chong. It comes out March 4th from Ballantine. Is this on your radar?
Yeah, we were both in the document prepping at the same time. And I saw you put it down and I was like, I'll erase it from mine.
Okay, yes.
I'll be a good host.
Well, I still have the pitch from the publicist because I was like, I know that I got pitched this very early.
Yes.
And she said, in case you were looking for a totally delightful, life-affirming, hopeful read, I wanted to highlight this novel for you. 6 months after reading it, these characters are still on my mind. To which I requested access to the digital copy.
Immediately.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. A coma can change a man, but the world Jack Jr. awakens to is one he barely recognizes. His advertising job is history, his Manhattan apartment is gone, and the love of his life has left him behind. He's been asleep for 2 years with no one to turn to. He realizes it's been 10 years since he last saw his family. Lost and disoriented, he makes a reluctant homecoming back to the bustling Korean-American enclave of Fort Lee, New Jersey, back into the waiting arms of his parents who are operating under the illusions he never left, and back to Joja, their ever-struggling sushi restaurant that he was set to inherit before he ran away from it all. There is value in the joyous rhythms of this once-abandoned life, but second chances are an even messier business than running a restaurant, and the lure of a self-determined path might once again prove too hard to resist. Why do we run from those we love, and why do we still love those who run from us? A highly entertaining and poignant story about second chances and self-discovery. I Leave It Up to You pilots through the loss, love, and absurdity of finding one's footing after the ground gives way. So it was obviously one that I was excited about, but I did feel like sometimes when you read a book blurb, you're like, okay, the book blurb is really what sold me. And Gabrielle Zavin, who wrote Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, had blurbed this one. And she said, maybe I've been waiting my whole life for a novel about a Korean sushi chef in Fort Lee, New Jersey. I Leave This to You is funny and tender with characters whose lives are satisfyingly messy. Jinwoo Chang is a writer for those of us who exist between cultures and identities. I love that exploration. I think what she did so well in her story, and is why she's being the person who blurbs it, is that she has that experience of being biracial, and, seeing that in storytelling is important to her. So that makes it important to me to read. So I'm excited about this, and they've been really pushing this book in my hands. And there are a couple books that are like that you're like, okay, this is going to be huge. And this was one of them. And so I would imagine this is probably going to get picked up maybe by some celebrity book club. It has to. I feel like
I hope so. I mean, this is one that I am trash, but I am a sucker for a good cover. And this cover is stunning.
Yes.
And then you read the description, I have the same pitch email where I was like,
yeah,
okay,
I'm curious.
Sign me up. It's a gorgeous story. I love, this is the type of fiction that I have been so getting into, that just something about me was lost for a little bit and I don't know how to go forward, or I have to navigate going forward.
And I love foodie fiction. Foodie fiction is as soon as you say it's set at a restaurant, it's a family restaurant. They're going to have to come back to your family and run a restaurant, which is a horrible kind of dynamic to have to negotiate with your family members, especially if you have some reason why you are estranged and you're returning back to help the family. I think that sounds like a really great exploration in a book. So
without
I'm excited.
a doubt. This one's on my list too. Happy to see it out there. I cannot wait to pick this up. I know, I'm with you. This will either be on a celebrity book club pick, or it is going to just be on everyone's list everywhere. It'll hit all of the lists at the very least.
Yes.
Well, my last pick, I wanted to throw a little nonfiction out there. This one kind of falls in the autobiography, biography, essay, music kind of space. This is I'll Love You Forever, Notes from a K-Pop Fan by Jie Kwan. The title caught me because I was what do you think of more
I
than
love you forever. I like you for always, as long as I'm living.
Exactly.
Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, I was
okay,
I was thinking that.
I was am I dating myself? This is a very traumatizing book. And recently on TikTok, I just saw this guy trying to read it to his kid because his wife gave it to him. And he's losing it, that's what I think of. Yeah, that's funny.
That's so funny. I think of K-pop stans as the internet powerhouse of replies on Twitter, the takedowns, but also the fan edits that are ceaseless. And the fact that it has the little finger heart on the cover, just everything about this to me. I started to really enjoy. My one friend is a huge K-pop. That is what she listens to nonstop. And so she would send me things I think you'll like this one. I'm like, okay. I'm like, oh, that was really good. And she'd be like, well, I think you'll like this one. And now all of a sudden I'm like, well, I guess I am a big K-pop listener now.
I love it.
And so there's just something about this that immediately I was like, well, I need to see how everyone else is thinking. But this is a meditation that blends memoir and cultural criticism to explore how the author's love affair with K-pop has shaped her sense of self, charting K-pop's complex coming of age through some of its biggest idols. And that is where I was really sold, that balance of how do we look at love and adoration, but also how do we do some criticizing? So I'll Love You Forever, Notes from a K-pop Fan is a smart, poignant, constantly surprising essay collection that considers the collision between stratospherically popular music and our inescapably personal selves. Kwan delves into the global impact of K-pop artists from Hot to Taeyeon to IU to Suga of BTS, and reveals how each illuminated and shaped her own life. In using intimate experiences to examine larger cultural topics, this singular work breaks new ground in its consideration of K-pop. Written from the perspective of a bilingual and bicultural Korean American, I'll Love You Forever blends the critical with the personal. Kwan interweaves profiles of different K-pop idols with ruminations on various aspects of Korean culture, from the country's attitude toward plastic surgery and female sexuality to its obsession with academia. This, again, hooked me. I love to hear the criticism on your own culture from, like from the people. So, combining insightful critique and adoring analysis, I'll Love You Forever provides readers with a fuller picture of a culturally and socially complex industry and the machine and heart behind its popularity. Above all, Kwan offers up the passion of a superfan, finding joy in K pop along the way.
I
So that,
love a deep dive, like especially like a
right?
pop culture deep dive, but any deep dive that I'm like, it's
Yes.
very particular to me. Like, I think
Aha.
last summer was like the J. Crew deep dive that I did. There's a book out about J. Crew that I like was deep diving and like, did you like
Oh,
giving like random facts that no one probably cared about? But I'm like, can I tell you a little bit about the J. Crew like catalog, like how it was shot and like what it looked like? But
I
I
love
love
that.
like anytime you like have something that you're passionate about that someone is that passionate about that they would like make it their exploration for you to get to like enjoy and consume in a different way with something that you engage in with art. That's really cool.
I mean, hey, I'm a Barbie collector. So
Are
when,
you? How did
yes.
I not know this? Okay.
Oh, it's one. I will send you photos of the
Okay.
room. But but like talk about exactly that of like
Yeah.
the books that exist of just like this designer shares how she was stuck making things out of fabric that they accidentally ordered too much of once, and I'm like,
Did
my
you see
brain
that
wants
the
to collect
Barbie,
that.
the Renee Rosen
Oh yeah,
book?
oh
Okay.
yeah, I
Are you
talked to
having
her
her
in
on?
January.
Oh,
Yes,
I figured.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
All
yes,
right. I'll have to
yes.
go back and look. Yeah.
Yes,
I
or
was
I
like,
talked to
oh,
her in, it was the end of the year. I talked to her in December. The book came out in January. She was so much fun. And I'm sorry to y'all who had to listen to us just geek out about Barbies for an hour. There were so many moments where I was just like, okay, but what did you think about?
yeah.
I mean,
She was
truly,
probably so excited to have like such an enthusiastic person to interview her. Like, how
I
exciting would that be?
she looked at me like, oh, we're doing this. Okay. We had so much fun to just get to be absolute fangirls for an hour was a joy. And then I had to be like, okay, I'm sorry, we have to talk about the book for a minute here. Hold on.
Yeah.
But so I love this concept because much like you with the J. Crew deep dive, my brain loves to just soak up information that will not serve me in any way other than my own happiness and joy.
Yeah.
And that's what this will do. But I also really want that look at the machine because what I've learned is that K-pop truly is a machine. They're like plucking these people off the street, they pop them into groups and they say, go be an idol. Your money belongs to us. And like when you're too old, we will kick you out and replace you with someone else. Like the machine, and then also the look at femininity and sexuality in Korea, and like the normalization of products that whiten and brighten the skin, and like surgery to have just these face shapes that are unattainable by anyone naturally, but in such a different way from how we experience it here in America, where everything is becoming like rounder and fuller here. Things are becoming like heart shaped and like V shaped, and so I'm all for this. So I
Yeah.
cannot wait. I'll Love You Forever, March 18th.
That's so cool. That's really cool. Do we have time for one more from me or are we all done?
Absolutely, yeah. Oh yes, your last pick,
Okay,
please.
my last pick is Hot Air by Marcy Dermansky, and this comes out March 18th by Knopf. I love her writing. She wrote a novel last summer. I think it was like her Hurricane Girl. It was
Oh yes.
unhinged in just the best kinds of ways. And I am really excited about this. This is a book for my weird fiction girlies. So if you like weird plot lines, this is a great writer. And this concept is absolutely bizarre. So I'm just going to read it because you're going to want to read it after you hear this. A joyfully unhinged story of money, marriage, sex, and revenge unspools when a billionaire crashes his hot air balloon into the middle of a post-pandemic first date. Joni hasn't been on a date in 7 years when Johnny invites Joni and her daughter to dinner. His house is beautiful, his son is sweet, and their first kisses, well, it's not the best, but Joni could convince herself it was nice enough. But when Joni's childhood crush, a summer camp fling, turned famous billionaire, crash lands his hot air balloon in Johnny's swimming pool, Joni dives in. Soon she finds herself alighting on a lost weekend with Johnny the bad kisser. Julia, his smart, stunning wife, Does Joni want Jonathan? Does Julia want her husband or Joni or girl? Does Johnny want Julia? Does Jonathan want Joni or Julia or maybe his much younger personal assistant Vivian, who is tasked to fix it all? A tale of lust and money and lust for money. Hot Air is as astonishing as it is blisteringly funny, a delirious, delicious story for our billionaire era. Okay. What is going on here?
Laughing.
Okay, I know. And
so
even
perfect.
saying that, I'm like, hey, do I get like a medal? Because I got through that little, like, because that was like a lot of like stuff.
I need to send you something for that. I don't know how you did it.
I know. I need a little trophy. Okay, it's a very slim novel. It's only 208 pages. It sounds like a lot's going on in here in just a couple hundred pages. But I have to say, I can't wait to spend an afternoon. This sounds so bizarre and so fun. Like, I don't know. I love her. If you have not picked up Hurricane Girl, then you'll decide whether or not, okay, this would be someone that I want to go on adventures with, because her books are just kind of like that you're like, how did that happen? And like, what is going on in this book? Like, I am so confused in all the best ways. And I absolutely loved it. I'm like, I love something completely unhinged. I like unlikable people. I like it to be weird. This sounds weird. This sounds perfect for these times, for sure.
Oh, it sounds absolutely bonkers.
Does this not sound like unprecedented times?
This is the definition of unprecedented times.
This is an unprecedented time.
What sounds like the most ridiculous first date. I mean, I am 32. I am childless. I am single and happily single. I will clarify. But I don't know a world where I think first date, bring your kids. And maybe that's not something I can relate to because I don't have them, but you meet my daughter, I meet your son on our first date?
Yeah, kind of odd.
So
but also,
everything about
like,
this,
everything
I'm like,
about
okay,
this sounds odd. I mean, I'm like,
wild.
I'm intrigued.
And I'll keep my record of being unhinged, but a great cover. Like,
yes.
It looks like a puffer jacket. I know it's supposed to be the hot air balloon filled, but those shocker, I love vibrant colors. It's just vibrant colors on this thing. Everything about it. And 208 pages. Sign me up for...
What do you have to lose?
Right, like the dumbest story imaginable of like... And I mean dumb in the most affectionate way possible. Yeah. Like, it's just unhinged.
Yes, I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm ready for it.
Me too. Well, Amy, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks. This is so much fun.
And thank you for sharing the books that you're looking forward to, the ones that are already on your stacks, the ones that are coming onto them soon. Just remind everyone one more time, for those of you who made it to this part of the show, where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm Mom Advice pretty much everywhere. And you can find me on there. You can find me on the Book Gang podcast, where I interview people about their books.
And you will be able to find all of Amy's info in the episode description for today's episode. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope your TBR got a little bit longer. And as always, happy reading. Readers can sample and borrow the titles mentioned in today's episode in the Libby app. Our library friends can purchase those titles in Marketplace. Professional Book Nerds is proud to be an Evergreen Podcast signature program. To learn about other Evergreen podcasts, visit evergreenpodcasts.com. Our podcast is produced and recorded by me, Joe Skelly, and edited by Joe Skelly and Andrew Alonso. The podcast is presented by OverDrive. To learn more, visit professionalbooknerds.com. Happy reading!